every day for 10 years. I've been bullied and attacked, and I was the most trolled person in the entire world, man or woman. I'm still here. And so when I think of all of you and what you're experiencing, I think so much of that is having to realize that, that industry, that billion-dollar industry that is completely anchored and predicated on cruelty to get clicks, that's not going to change.
Tony in Hampshire, hi.
Hello.
What do you think of what Meghan said?
Well, I think it's based on fact, and I think that before any criticism of her and to tell her, get off social media, ignore it. I mean, let's remember that she already had a social media presence way before she was part of the royal family, which was used for actually, I think, a lot of positivity, women's rights and all that kind of stuff. So she was already established on social media. And I think that what's happened to her, I mean, I think of what happened to Caroline Flack and how she had about 3 weeks of abuse, which caused her to commit suicide. Yeah. And Meghan's kind of had to hold her nerve for years now, unfairly. And it's so much of it has emanated from what the palace and the institution had set up.
All right. I mean, I suppose, yes, although she took on the palace establishment, and I know Paula's going to disagree with me now, she basically accused them of racism through an interview which her husband corroborated without really any evidence at all.
I am going to correct you. You'll be surprised to hear that racists don't walk around with racist tattooed on their forehead. That's not to say that she was wrong. She might be.
She said they were talking about the skin colour of their baby and thinking okay, is that not allowed?
So it's all about context. And this is the problem with proving racism. When you're in a situation where somebody says, Gitto and Paula are finally having a beloved child. How wonderful. Yeah, and we've discussed whether it's going to have blue eyes or brown hair. Isn't that fantastic? Or you're in a room where you walk in and there's stony faces and somebody in the background says, yeah, I wonder what it's going to look like. I hope it's light-skinned. Context, Jeremy, context. Can I just say, John's absolutely right. I'm really disappointed in the institution that is the royal family in allowing this industry to thrive. They could have put a stop to this and they've chosen not to.
Yeah, you know what? It all started, I think, when they had the wedding, Harry and Meghan, and it was such a great success. And someone, on behalf of William and Kate, started to brief against. You could see it, and it just got out of control.
If you were watching Jeremy Vine's show recently, you might have caught something that stopped a lot of people in their tracks. A caller phoned in, and instead of the usual back and forth, they said out loud what millions of us have believed for years. Meghan wasn't criticised by the British press. She was bullied, relentlessly, deliberately, and for a horrifyingly long time. Squaddies, welcome back. Today, we're breaking down exactly what that moment on Jeremy Vine exposed, why it matters, and why the UK media's treatment of Meghan remains one of the clearest, most undeniable double standards in modern royal history. Let's start with the obvious question. Criticism and bullying are not the same thing. Criticism engages with what someone does, a decision, a policy, a public statement. Bullying targets who someone is. It's personal. It's repetitive. It's designed to wear a person down. And when you look back at years of UK tabloid coverage of Meghan, what you find isn't scrutiny. It's a pattern, a relentless engineered pattern that followed her from the moment she joined the royal family to long after she left it. Think about the sheer range of things Meghan got attacked for. Holding her pregnant stomach, mocked as attention-seeking. Other royal women doing the exact same thing, praised as tender and maternal. Eating avocado toast. Somehow this became a national news story, tying her to environmental destruction and drought in far-off countries, as if no other public figure in Britain had ever eaten breakfast. guest editing an issue of British Vogue centred on women driving positive change around the world, a project that should have been an easy win, twisted into controversy anyway. Even her own wedding, one of the most joyful days of anyone's life, got picked apart detail by detail, in a way most brides never have to endure. That's not journalism holding power to account. That's a machine that decided early on that this particular woman was going to be the story, and it didn't much matter what she actually did. And then it got darker, much darker. During the Oprah interview, Meghan told the world she'd experienced suicidal thoughts. Sit with that for a second. A pregnant woman, married into one of the most scrutinized institutions on the planet, was in so much pain that she reached a breaking point. She has said she asked for help and didn't get it. And what followed her admission wasn't a wave of reflection from the press that had spent years going after her. For a lot of outlets, it was closer to business as usual. Not long after, Meghan shared that she'd suffered a miscarriage, a loss that any decent person recognises as one of the hardest things a family can go through. And still, some corners of the media couldn't manage basic human compassion. The hostility didn't pause, it didn't soften, it just kept going. This is the part that should make anyone uncomfortable, regardless of how they feel about the royal family as an institution. Because if we actually care about mental health, not as a hashtag, not as something we bring up only when it's convenient, then that care can't be conditional. It can't depend on whether we personally warm to someone in a magazine profile. Compassion that only shows up for people we already like isn't compassion. It's tribalism wearing a compassionate mask. Here's a number that a lot of people still don't know or have conveniently forgotten. 72. In 2019, 72 female members of Parliament signed a letter condemning the abuse Meghan was receiving in the press. 72 elected officials, people whose job is not to weigh in on celebrity gossip, felt the situation was serious enough that they put their names to a formal statement about it. That's not a fringe opinion. That's not a few angry people on Twitter. That's a documented historical receipt that the abuse was real, it was recognised at the highest levels, and it was bad enough that lawmakers felt compelled to speak up when the institution she'd married into stayed conspicuously silent. And that silence is really the heart of this story, isn't it? Never complain, never explain gets treated like some noble royal tradition. But when a pregnant woman is struggling with her mental health and reportedly can't access the support she needs, silence isn't dignity. It's abandonment dressed up in tradition. The family had every opportunity to publicly stand behind her, to draw a line, to say enough. Instead, the tabloid machine kept running week after week, and the institution let it happen. Now, let's talk about the double standard directly, because this is where the Jeremy Vine caller really hit the nail on the head. Search however long you want. You will not find a single photo, a single clip, a single moment where Meghan behaved with anything less than composure and grace. Not one. She has, by any fair measure, conducted herself with more consistency and poise under pressure than most public figures ever have to demonstrate. And yet she became the tabloid villain, while identical behaviour from other royal women was framed as elegant, relatable, even inspiring. Same heels, different headline, same gestures, different headline, same dress silhouette, different headline. That's not commentary on fashion choices or parenting styles. That's a pattern that only makes sense if you accept that this was never really about the outfits or the toast. It was about who was wearing them. So why does this keep happening? Why, years after Meghan and Harry stepped back from royal duties, built a new life on a different continent, and focused on their family and their own projects, do certain shows and certain papers still can't let it go? Because outrage sells. Controversy drives clicks, and clicks drive revenue. It's not complicated, and it's not even particularly hidden anymore. Some of these outlets have built entire business models around turning Meghan's every move into a headline. She smiles, headline. She launches a project, headline. She stays quiet and out of the spotlight for a while, and somehow that becomes a headline too. There is no version of this where the coverage stops, because the coverage was never really about her actions in the first place. But here's the part of the story that the people who spent years predicting her downfall really don't want to talk about. It didn't work. Meghan didn't disappear. She didn't fold under the pressure the way some clearly hoped she would. She rebuilt. She kept working on causes she cares about. She kept raising her children. She kept standing beside Harry. She kept showing up, publicly and unapologetically, as herself. The fire that was supposed to consume her ended up doing the opposite. It forged someone more resilient, more focused, and frankly more respected by millions of people around the world who watched the whole thing unfold and drew their own conclusions. That's really what that Jeremy Vine caller was tapping into. Not some fringe theory. Not a conspiracy. Just an honest, plain-spoken acknowledgement of something a lot of the British commentariat still refuses to say out loud. They went after this woman in a way that was disproportionate, that was often cruel, and that in any other context would be called exactly what it was: bullying. And the fact that it's taken this long for that word to be used so plainly on a mainstream radio show tells you everything about how deeply normalised this treatment became. It wasn't hidden. It was public. It was constant. And for years it was treated as ordinary entertainment rather than what it actually was. The internet doesn't forget, squaddies. Every headline, every segment, every controversy manufactured out of nothing is still out there, time-stamped and searchable. History doesn't get rewritten just because it's become inconvenient for the people who wrote it. The receipts exist. They will always exist. And moments like this caller on Jeremy Vine are exactly why they matter, because every so often the silence cracks, and someone says the quiet part out loud on live radio. Meghan is still here, still working, still visible, still very much unbroken by any of it. The people who built entire careers predicting her collapse have had to watch her do the opposite for years now. And that, more than anything, is the real story the tabloids never wanted to tell. If this resonated with you, let us know in the comments. Did you catch that Jeremy Vine call live? What was your reaction? And if you're new here, this is exactly the kind of media accountability content we do on this channel, cutting through the tabloid noise and calling out the double standards when we see them. Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and join the Squaddies community so you never miss a breakdown. We'll see you in the next one.